Taking a few questions there, but we want to bring you another developing story, a big story that ties in, of course, to the general election and the vote. Florida has been given access to key data in its effort to purge ineligible voters from that state's rolls. Now, following several weeks of legal battles, federal officials have agreed to give Florida access to a Department of Homeland Security database. Republican Governor Rick Scott, who's spearheading this purge, calls this a significant victory for Florida. And joining me now, Miami Herald political reporter Mark Caputo. Mark, do we know why this concession was made? Obviously, we're waiting to hear reaction from civil rights activists and others who are concerned that African Americans, Hispanics, and others will be wrongly targeted here. Nevertheless, why this move here?
You know, that's a good question. It looks like what prompted this was the ruling in a separate lawsuit from a federal judge in Florida who essentially said that he denied the Department of Justice's motion to stop the state from conducting the purge. Now, what's strange about that motion or that order was that the state had essentially stopped doing the purge because the supervisors of elections had stopped doing it. But the judge had suggested that if the state had better access to better data, that the state would be permitted to go ahead and purge non-citizens from the voter rolls, even if it's 90 days before a federal election.
Now, obviously, other states are seeking this database, so this is more than about Florida. You have Colorado, Nevada, Michigan, and North Carolina all watching how this plays out. It's interesting to me and many others, the fact that the Governor, Scott, he's not very popular, at least when you look at the polls, but this issue of purging so-called ineligible voters is popular in the state of Florida, and we know how important Florida is in this general election.
Sure. I mean, most people, if you ask them in a vacuum, should non-citizens be allowed to vote, they would say no. And in fact, it is a crime for a non-citizen to be registered to vote, right, and for a non-citizen to actually vote. The problem is the process. The state had sparred with the federal government for quite some time, the Department of Homeland Security, which had denied Florida the right to access the federal database. So the state kind of went out on its own and wildcatted around and came up with a list that really had a lot of false positives. A lot of people on the list turned out to actually be actual citizens. The number of non-citizens is very small. We're not quite sure exactly what the number is, but we can certainly say right now it's a handful.
All right, Mark, thank you very much. But again, federal officials have agreed to give Florida access to the Department of Homeland Security database and what has been an ongoing battle over so-called ineligible voters. We'll have more on this.